Father, and be for the best interest of the children of Logan County, Father. We thank you for all our staff, everyone that works in our school system, Father, and I thank you for watching over and protecting them every day and keeping them safe from harm. I just ask you to forgive us when we failed you. For in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, go ahead and repeat after me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Then I'll take a motion for the approval of the minutes for the March 11th, 2025 meeting. Motion by Shirley Myers, seconded by Ricky Dodson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
On the additions or deletions to the proposed agenda, I have an addition to the consent agenda for number 12, Livingston Academy FFA overnight trip to the National Land Judging Contest in El Reno, Oklahoma, 4/28/2025 to 5/2/2025. Do you have any other additions or deletions? Okay, we'll do the approval of the April 8, 2025 meeting agenda.
Make a motion.
Motion. Oh, I need a motion to add the consent agenda.
I'll make that
Motion by Alice Reed, seconded by Ben Danner. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Approval of the April 8, 2025 meeting agenda. Motion by Ben Danner, seconded by James Klaus. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I'm gonna read the executive action items and the consent agenda items together, and then we'll get a motion to approve those. Executive action was Livingston Academy FFA overnight trip to FFA State Convention in Glattenburg, 3/23/2025 through 3/26/2025. On the consent agenda, I have 141 fiscal year 25 general purpose for school revisions number 7. I have 142 fiscal year 25 consolidated admin revision number 5, 142 fiscal year 25 title 1A revision number 5, 142 fiscal year 25 title 2A revision number 5, 142 fiscal year 25 title 4 revision number 5, 142 fiscal year IDEA Part B revision number 5, 142 fiscal year 25 IDA preschool revision number 5, 142 fiscal year 25 CTE Perkins Reserve revision number 4, 142 fiscal year 25 IDEA preschool revision number 6, 142 fiscal year IDEA Part B revision number 6, 142 fiscal year 25 CTE Perkins Basic revision number 4, and Livingston Academy FFA overnight trip to the National Land Judging Contest in El Reno, Oklahoma, 4/28/25 to 5/2/2025. Do I have a motion? Motion by James Klaus, seconded by Ben Danner. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next we'll move into the new business. First thing on the new business is consider approval of the contract of employment between Dr. Donnie Holman and the Overton County Board of Education. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alice Reed,
I'll
seconded by Shirley Myers. Discussion? Okay. Because we'll be spending money on this contract, we will do a roll call vote.
Question. So we're voting on the contract that was presented at the last meeting?
Yes.
The one we got
I'm
in the
sorry.
mail, the one we got.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
So the only difference in that contract other than the money is it says in it that it automatically puts the director in probation if the schools fall under the score. The current one says the board would have to vote to put the director under probation. That new one says it automatically puts them under probation. Tennessee School Board Association looked at it, they said that was the only difference. Because the old one says the board would have to act to put the director in probation, The new one says it automatically goes into probation if the school scores fall below. Other than the money part, that's the only other difference, so.
It's right here. On there, and
Underlined it at least.
failure to raise scores within the probationary period may result in an action to unilaterally terminate the contract of employment without cause. So, yeah, may result.
But the first one says that the board would have to do a probation of the director. The second contract says it automatically starts a probation, is what the TSBA had said, that that's the only difference they seen in it. I had them look at it.
So, yeah, that must be the only change in there, because this one is the one that I pulled that we had gotten. Is
That
it
was
the one
sent with
we
all
pulled,
the
Crystal,
information.
that was signed?
Yeah,
Yeah, this is the one that we,
I sent
that
them
we
both
pulled
in
that was
the
signed.
last packet, yeah.
And then this one is the one that we pulled. That's the only thing that changed in that was the 1008 to my knowledge, but if they're saying that that changed, then
Yeah, the wording of the, the original contract said that we would have to, the board would have to enact a probation or not, but the new one says it automatically starts a probation if the school scores fall below a certain.
I can grab them and see.
yeah,
Have them
go ahead and
both.
grab that one right there so I can look at, we can look at both of them. Now, what does the board wanna do with that? Do they wanna change it to the board shall enact, or do you wanna leave it as the
May,
may,
does that mean the board may?
the board may, we can?
That's what I took it as.
Yeah. While she gets those, that's something to think about.
So would that have to be voted on next month, since we were presented a different contract this month? We need to put it off till next month and vote on it? Cause our packet's got that contract. If we're changing the contract, can we,
Haven't had time to look at it yet.
I don't think we could vote on a contract that's
We
amended
might
tonight.
amend it and just change the wording. Crystal would know that, I would think. Or keep it as is.
That's up to the board.
I have a question.
Okay?
How does it come up with a 4-year contract?
The 4-year contract is the maximum amount of time that you can do according to Tennessee Code Annotated.
So who decided on a 4-year?
The last one we signed was for a 4-year, so it just sort of rolled over, and that's the reason that the only change that, as I told you all in the last one, the only change that, to my knowledge, was the $108,000 for the compensation.
Is that when you have Crystal, the same one that's in the packet?
Yes,
This is your,
yes.
it says
Right here
here.
is the two, the old one that was signed is right there, and then here is the new one. I'm not sure exactly where y'all are looking, but I was going to get them
Well,
both.
when it talks about the scores, the new one says if school scores fall, that first one said the board, it's up to
Is
the
that
board.
something that the board usually discusses before it's voted on though?
On,
The length of term?
We have
that's
in the
what,
past.
that's what we are,
Yes.
and that's what we're doing right now also.
Okay.
Are you talking about 15D in the contract?
Yes,
Yes.
15D.
Yes,
I see where it says on
Right.
But Ben Torres at TSBA said that the new one said it automatically started a probation, and the old one didn't. It said it was up to the board.
This was
Yeah,
the new one.
and add to vote of the school board.
And it says failure to raise scores.
So that was the one that was there.
May result in a.
But according to that, that's the only thing that changed, according to him?
Yes.
That was the only thing that
Other
changed?
than the
to
money
him?
and that's the only other change to it.
So then that. As a discussion here, what direction does the board want to? We'll have to take the,
I mean, the difference would be this old contract, I think the scores dipped one time and it would already went into probation without the board acting, so, I mean.
Is it
Director-
automatic in the old one, the new one,
Well,
it's
the-
not?
No, the old one, it's up to the board to
We'd have to
decide. The
vote.
new one, it's automatic, so that's something the director of Holman needs to, I mean, I don't know that he's, you know, seen that part, and agrees to that,
What was that
because
change, Crystal? Oh,
I'm not seeing where it says automatic. It just says may.
does that mean, because it says May?
should any school fall below a score of 3 for 2 consecutive years, a 1-year probationary period shall begin.
shall be, it says shall in the new one, it says
Failure
may in
to
the old
raise
one.
scores with the probationary period may result in action to unilaterally terminate the contract of employment for cause. It says may result in
Is that the one we have? The one that says
that.
May?
Yes,
No, the new one says May.
Shall.
the new one,
The new one says May.
it shall begin, but it says
Well, the
may
new one
result
says
The
it
new one
begin.
says May.
The new one says it shall
says-
begin.
It says it shall, the probation shall begin,
But the board
But
has
the
to.
termination of the contract
Yes.
may result in
But in
termination.
the current one, we would have had to, when the scores dipped, the board, if they went by the contract, would have done a probation then, but did not.
The old
I'm just saying, in the new contract, when the scores drop, it's not up to the board, it automatically goes into a
1 year
probation.
probation.
It's up to the board on whether they cancel the contract.
After the year.
After 1 year.
After the year
But
probation.
it's not up to the board, it's not up to the board to start the probation, it
No.
begins.
It automatically begins, correct.
That's what you
It's after a year they can cancel.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, that's completely different than the current contract. That one word changes it quite a bit.
Have we
Let
got,
me make sure, but I think.
When he says the
I
current
think-
contract, is that the one that
That's.
Dr. Holman is under now?
Yes,
Yes.
the signed contract that
Okay,
is currently under.
so we didn't get the old one. We only
They
got
were
the
in
new
last
one.
month's
They were
work
in
session.
last
That's right.
Yeah. So you should
So
have
we
had
looked
the
at the-
old one and the new one last month, and then this time I just put out the new one again. But I think right here, I'm gonna read them right quick, just let me look over them. We hold up my computer.
Well, I sent them both to TSBA, because it said that, you know, they say they evaluate them for no charge to us. I mean, they said that was the only difference.
Did they have a comment about which one they thought? They just
So, the
evaluated
board,
the differences?
They did ask me why we went with a 4-year. I mean, I take it most
But they
school
didn't
boards probably
about
don't
the-
go with 4 years.
But they had no opinion about the
shall or may.
probation or
Well,
whatever.
no, the
They just
opinion was,
showed the
we need to know
differences.
that
Yeah.
if we do this new contract,
That had been
if the-
changed.
if the scores dip below, they automatically go into probation.
The probation begins, but then it's up to the board to make an action, to do an action after that.
So, yeah, that is, you're correct. Yeah, the old one says if enacted by a vote, yeah, and this new one says it will automatically begin.
The probationary period will,
Yes.
and then if the board makes an action, then it will terminate the contract. It doesn't say that it automatically terminates.
Yes.
If enacted by the board.
No, that ain't what I said. I just
Yeah,
said
you're right.
it automatically makes a probation period.
Yes.
Yeah.
The current one does not. The board has to enact that and then do the other. That's just, you know, the new one goes in and
Which I
does
think
it.
it should be automatic.
Yeah.
I think that if you're at that point, then it should automatically kick in and.
And then it would be looked at about circumstances itself.
Yeah,
have we got our evaluation for this year, the score yet?
Yeah, it was in them.
I have
This year.
the director evaluations.
not everybody has got everything turned in yet,
I
we're still
have
waiting
a
on.
number for the ones that everybody has turned in so far.
I mean, not turned in.
I haven't turned mine in.
3 maybe? I'm thinking three was the number I'm guessing for some reason, I'm thinking it was three. but I
Three
didn't
people hadn't
actually-
turned theirs
So,
in.
so we're voting on this contract going off that, and we don't even have everybody's right now?
Well, we have, the first 2 years that are there, which the number, that I gave you, the one that's there, we went off I took into consideration the evaluations that had been turned in. The number for the evaluations that had been turned in was a 3.86 out of 5.
I thought that email said it was a 4 point something.
It's 4.3, it was a 4.3, but that took into consideration everything over the past 4 years, over the length of his contract.
But is that how we do the evaluations? We average out, or do we do the current year? I don't know, I'm just asking how that works.
What I put on the email that I sent you all explaining it was an average over the course of the 4 years. With this year, we have just one number that went into that evaluation with the 4.32.
Which is 7 out of 10 members.
Yes. And if I'm not mistaken, in the contract, I said over the course of the term, it was a 4.3 out of 5.
Dropped it. Dropped it.
Sorry, Lynn. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Go back.
Patty, yeah.
Melissa, we can hear you.
You got it on mute now.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on that. Does the board want to go ahead and do a vote on that, or do the motion and the second want to, assume there?
Can you repeat what we're doing the motion? I lost service.
We had a motion and a second for the, contract extension. This is the discussion part of it.
I don't care to change my motion if there's somebody
Thank
wants
you.
a different time limit. But I don't want to.
I personally am not opposed to an extension, but I'm not for a 4-year extension. If we can consider a 12-month or maybe a 2-year extension, then I'll consider voting for it, but I'm not gonna, I personally won't vote for any director going forward with a 4-year contract.
Well,
That's just my.
I'll rescind my motion then,
And will you change
I
your
agree with
motion?
that also.
Change it to?
a 2-year.
It'll be a 2-year extension instead of a 4-year extension. And the wording in Part D,
You want to change that?
Can we vote on a contract that we're changing before next month? I mean, can you just change it in the middle of the meeting? I don't know how that, or do we need to put it off till next month?
well, the one contract was presented to the board, it came in the board packets there. If Dr. Holman's okay with the wording in that, and we're just changing it to a 2-year instead of a 4-year agreement, then there shouldn't be a problem on voting on the new one, because it was presented to the board. If we want the wording changed in Part D, and then that we'll have to put it off till next meeting.
Well, I mean, you're talking about changing the wording to a 2-year, I mean, that is changing it too.
Well, that would change the, effective dates. It wouldn't change the wording on there, it would just change the effective date.
I have no problem voting as is, the one we received along with 2 years.
What if it is a probationary year, what will happen then? I mean, the next year, we have to come.
Well, it says the board may take action. The board doesn't have to do anything, it may take action, is the way the wording goes on that. And as I have told you all, the average term of a director of schools for Oakland County has been 2 years. But since I've got on the board, we've had 4 different directors. Started with Pamela Smith Gordon, Terry Webb, then we went to Mark Winningham, and now we have Dr. Holman. There equals out to be about, the average of it's 2 years. If we want lasting change and improvements, we're gonna have to get some continuity in leadership, because if you're continually changing the leadership, you're starting back from scratch all the time.
Well, I mean,
I have a question about the
Can we
probation
not take
service.
more time? I just personally think it's too soon to decide. I think there needs to be more discussion.
I didn't understand.
Just one more discussion. I have a question about the, schools falling below a certain level. Is that an average of all schools? You might have one school that have a D, but another school have an A.
It says any school in the thing, I mean, it's what, any school,
Any
exact word.
falls below for 2 years. Yes,
For
it
2
says
years.
so for
That would
2
be-
consecutive years.
my opinion, past boards probably went off those scores and changed directors because of that. We had a contract here, and the board here did not do anything off of the scores for the last 4 years. I mean, the scores dipped in this one, I'm sure they dipped in the other one, then the board probably done something, changed leadership. That would be my opinion about it.
And if it does go into where, on that probation period, who keeps up with it to make sure that it does go into effect?
It could be up to the board to.
Well,
monitor that.
it automatically will go into effect. What it is if the board decides to take an action. If the board decides, hey, we're gonna terminate this contract, then the board would have to come in here and vote to terminate the contract.
But why have that in the contract if that hadn't been done before, hadn't been went on?
It is in a way.
The reason that whole line right there went into the contract, it first went into the contract with Dr. Mark Winningham, when it was in there. And the reason that it went in there is because when we reevaluated the contract, we wanted to put something in there that was close to how new tenure teachers, how that went for them. We wanted the teachers to be able to feel that the director was under the same pressure that they were. If you were a new tenure teacher and you fall below a level 3 for 2 years in a row, you lose your tenure. Then you go on a probationary period where you get help trying to change. If you don't change then the school system can make the decision to fire you.
But my point is, that's in the director's contract and it's not being done. I mean, if the scores drop below and there was nothing done about that, I mean, we're saying we do that to teachers, but we're not holding the director to the same accountability the teachers.
Well, as it said in the past one, and it said in this one, the board may take action. Or the other one said the board may vote to put a probationary period in.
And that's just the
Yes.
teacher's not automatically fired, it's left up to the director of school.
William,
Yes,
can y'all hear me okay?
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, my only thing is, I really want to hear some opinions before I have to vote on anything from some of the people that have to work directly under any director. I mean, we as a board, we communicate with the director, but at the end of the day, it's our teachers and our principals and our supervisors, they work in the situation, and I think it's only fair that we have input from everybody that, this is a big decision for the students in our county.
I agree with that.
That's just my 2 cents.
I think there's a lot of consternation among the board members. I'd like to make a motion that we table this until the next meeting.
Well, here's my opinion. State law says it has to be the first thing on the agenda. So if we wait till next month, we're gonna be in the same conversation if we elect to change it, when we can't vote on it till the following month. So we need to have a work session before the next meeting to hammer out all the details
Correct.
before we come back to the next meeting.
As long as something's
Because
done
if we
before the end
don't,
of
we're
the
gonna be sitting in
contract.
the same situation in May, saying, okay, well, we changed it, but we're not gonna vote on it until June. So if we're gonna do that, I'm fine with waiting until May, but we need to have a work session between now and the next meeting and hammer out the details.
Which is what we should have done already, I
Yeah.
think, where we are right now.
Because the contract says 90 days before, and we never done that. But Tennessee School Board Association said long as, you know, if we took no action, the contract expires. If we take no action at all, as long as we do something before the contract ends, I mean, that's fine too.
I think we should have a work session, and I thought we might have one last time before it came up.
But we need to,
Whenever
because,
we've been discussing, we could discuss at the work session and get it ironed out.
like I said, we're gonna be here at May and somebody has one word change, it's like, well, we can't vote on it because it's gonna be one word change. So we need to hammer that out in the work session.
Yes,
We just need to,
I agree.
if that's what y'all wanna do, so.
But, I mean, one word like shall or may is completely different. It
Oh,
makes
I
the
agree.
contract completely different. I mean, we might not be sitting here voting on it right now if it would have been that in the last one, because if it went into probation and the school numbers went down, I mean, it may not have been,
Can I make a motion and we have a work
Well,
session?
Alice has to rescind
She's
her
gonna rescind
motion.
hers.
Well, she had rescinded it for 2 years. If she wants to rescind the entire motion, then.
If that pleases the board, yes, I can rescind it.
I'll rescind my second.
Okay, so we'll do that, and then we're gonna have to have a, called work session in order to discuss this, so we'll have to put that, when do we wanna do that, at the,
We can do it at the end of the work session today. Let's go ahead and start on it. I mean, that's just my opinion.
okay?
We can start today, it's fine. We just
All
can't
right.
vote on it till next month.
Yeah. We start on work session today.
All right,
Do you wanna let Mitch, make the motion to table it until?
yes,
I move that we table this until the next meeting.
so,
seconded by Ben Danner,
What?
move it to the next meeting.
Yes.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, we'll start working on that on the work session after this meeting. Next, we'll move to consider approval of retirement from Tammy Daly, Melanie Nard, and Carrie Albridge.
Make a motion.
Motion by, who was the motion maker? James Klaus, seconded by Mike Hayes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Consider approval of the following letters of resignation. Rachel Ramsey, Jessica Bilbrey, Josh Carwall, Darlene Buck, Matt Hauser as LA football coach.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Rick Dodson, seconded by Ben Danner. All in favor, please say aye. Number 4, consider approval of the Overton County virtual auctions through Pearson Education. Everybody received information on that in an email from the Director of Schools. And Brent's gonna give us some more information about it.
And Dr. Holman had asked us to kind of investigate the possibility of basically restarting a virtual program. As you all probably know, that our district isn't new to a virtual program. We've had Tech Prep in the past, but as you know, since the beginning of that program, as time went on, we went through, of course, the pandemic, and the state, through all of that, had you know, created and put in place a lot of rules around virtual schools that we saw that Tech Prep just simply did not comply with. So we made the decision to kind of to change to a different vendor, and then that didn't really work out well because of the change. And so we took basically a year away from the virtual program. But as you all you may know that we have a growing homeschool population in our district. We have about 600 students approximately, and so you know we've of course, as I mentioned, we've served that population in the past through Tech Prep, but we're looking at another way to approach that is compliant. And we've talked with Johnson City Schools and talked with the director or the tech director there who oversaw putting that program in place. And he had a lot of good insight for us as to how their program's working. They're in it in 3 years. They've been using the Pearson virtual program, and they were very complimentary majority of the program, very pleased with the results that they're getting out of that program. They had actually done an in-house virtual program prior to doing the transitioning to Pearson. So, you know, they had a lot of confidence in that program. They talked really highly about how there's a lot of expectations in the program, and they talked about how it was a good way to meet that need of you know, parents wanting a homeschool option and providing a curriculum that has the high standards that we would expect in a brick and mortar school. They talked about how the program, the licensing for the program was around $2,889 per student is what they paid. And so they said roughly that gave us about $4,000 per student that could be used to support the program with staff and everything. And so they gave us a lot of good insight, but one of the things that they recommended was that we really start planning and really start thinking about about this now rather than in the summer, you know, approaching the start of school. So we wanted to bring this before the board and you know, ask for your consideration about kind of restarting this program, and so that way we can work on planning and getting
recruiting. We can start recruiting now.
Yeah.
And the target group, of course, is that 600 that you mentioned, the 600 students that are in Overton County that are homeschooled. That's who we want to.
So it's a large group. I mean, that's as much as the school, and you know, it's growing. And so that's something that we want to help the people in the community with by providing, you know, this would be a free option to them. And they would be enrolled under the school that's closest to them, to their home address. So that would give them the opportunities to, you know, be under that school for whether it's, you know, participating their activities in the school, sports events in the school, and also that's where they would go and do their testing, because they would be still accountable for doing state testing, benchmark tests and things like that that we're required to do in a regular brick and mortar school.
So when they enroll in a particular school, that principal gets notification?
Yeah, that principal would be responsible for kind of, I guess, like the testing side of it. But we would also have, through Reach Academy.
Yeah, we're looking at having someone in the district hired to be over that school to deal with all the issues of that. But then, like he was saying, if that child lived in Livingston, then they would go to AH or the middle school, or, you know, they would be assigned to those schools.
And the testing that they do, like the state, I'm sure that counts toward the particular school's overall grade as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if your home school students don't do well at Hillham Elementary, it is included in Hillham Elementary's scores.
Correct. And that's why I ask about the principal getting notified, because they need to know, hey, I've got 50 students that are homeschooled, but those scores affect my overall, that I have no control inside these four walls, or so to speak. So that's my only concern.
Right.
Does the attendance count also against the particular school?
That is, yeah, it does. Well, so the attendance is something that would be monitored closely through this program. That's one of the things that they pointed out. They said, you know, they do regular, it's daily participation. It's not weekly, or they don't check in, you know, once a month. It's daily participation in the program, and then if they're not, then somebody's calling and, you know, engaging with them, and they remove it from the program if they don't continue to participate as the expectation is.
And the program will also track their performance to make sure that they're making growth and gains that they need to be making.
And if they're not, what's the?
He was saying that the program themselves, they keep them out.
Oh, the program does, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And they have Tennessee licensed teachers in the program. Pearson hires them, so they wouldn't be an Overton County Schools employee.
How's that work like now? I mean, everybody that's going to Rickman don't live in Rickman, everybody going to Hillham don't live in Hillham. How's that gonna work, putting them into the school? I mean, cause they may, if it's going to school, they may go to another school but now that puts them at the one, so it zones them into the school they live at, is that what?
Well, that's just an internal decision that we decided to
That was
approach
something
it.
that we had looked at, because we didn't want to have all elementary we didn't want to place all of our elementary students at one school.
Yeah.
And then it wouldn't really be fair to have them, all elementary students to be tagged to Hillham, for instance.
Yeah.
So we tried to come here at the office, we tried to make it the way that we could divvy those students out. So we just thought, based on their address, where would they go to school? That way we would know, that way we would attribute those
Their
students
bus
to that
route, as
student.
we used to say. If you live on that bus route,
I'm
that's your
just saying, we
school.
don't go off that for the regular, that's my only.
And I think by state testing, do they not have to come inside the school to
Yeah.
do those testing?
Yes.
Yeah, they will.
So that's something internally they'd have to look at too, because you wouldn't want an extra 100 kids going to Rickman,
Yeah.
but you have nowhere to put them for testing that day, so.
Out of the 600, how many do you think that would participate in this? What percentage?
That's hard to,
It's hard to know.
that's
yeah.
hard to know. If we participate in this, if you all decide that we wanna go this route, the minimum that we have to do is eight licenses, so 8 students. That's the lowest that we can participate in, but hopefully we would have more than that.
Out of the 600, you would think you would.
Yeah, we would, yeah, we're hoping and we think that there would be a good turnout. And if we started in the fall and we only had the 8 minimum and, you know, we had 15 and the winter, you know, for the second semester, we could add more licenses in if we had more people wanting to join the program.
Would this make more people wanna do that instead of staying in school?
Well,
That's not what we want.
I know, but I'm just wondering if it's gonna,
It possibly could, but that's sure not our goal.
Yeah.
Our goal is to target some of those that are out there that we could bring back into the school system. That we could
I mean, if
serve.
you got 15 that participated, and we got 4,000 back, that's 60,000, that'd pay for the position there. But I think that particular position, in my opinion, needs to be tasked with recruiting kids back into that program. So, I mean, my personal opinion is I don't wanna sit there and say, okay, well, I got 15, I'm on Easy Street. Not saying they would, but I think they need to be tasked with, hey, I've gotta get X amount of numbers of kids back in this program.
We had talked about that too. If, of course, if it goes so low, we wouldn't have a purpose in having it.
Right.
You know, we couldn't afford to have it, so to speak, so.
What, I'll ask you a question, may not know, what is the biggest age group or grade level kids that's homeschooled?
I don't know that. I think that's Christie.
There's a lot in all the grade levels. But from what I see though, I would think there's a lot more in high school. That's what I would think.
figured, but I didn't know.
Oh,
In the Johnson City school system,
She was just pointing out, this is the first time that we would have an option for the high school. When we were under K-Trip, it
I
was only
thought this
K-8.
was for elementary like it had been
Oh.
before. So
Yeah.
this would
be
take in the
K-12.
high school.
Yeah.
and like they said, we've never had that option before.
I just know a lot of high school kids, they wanna work, and make money, so some of them homeschool us just so they can work too.
And that's
This
what,
would hold them more accountable.
in Johnson City Schools, that was one of the examples that they gave for the students that were participating in it. So,
And if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Shirley, you can answer this, in the CPAC meeting that we went to, the majority of students are in a program that has some accountability there. There are only a couple, I think it was like 80 students that their parents have pulled them out and said, I'm assuming all responsibility for this education. The majority of that 600 students are in a program that does have accountability, that is looking at growth and all of that stuff. If I'm not mistaken.
559, I believe.
559
In
of
an
those
umbrella
students.
school.
and the umbrella schools are that's the program that those parents are having to pay for, but this program would be, you know, free to them, an option that's free to them.
So with the high school students, if they elected to do classes at TCAT or something, is that something they would work around for them to be able to go to TCAT and do those?
We haven't worked all that out yet, but that is something that in Johnson City Schools, they talked about having hybrid students is what they called it. And where
I think we
students-
need to have that flexibility for them to continue down that, yeah.
And once we get the program going and everything, that's things that we can definitely look at and see. It's just gotta start with us either approving or not approving.
like I said, we were wanting to mention it to you now so that we could, do some recruiting of that population, have a little time to do that recruiting.
You said we had to maintain 8?
Eight is what we have. Eight's the minimum, 8 is the minimum to begin with.
Where did Johnson City Schools have performance data about how these students did?
Yes, they did, and they did well. As a matter of fact, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Brent, but their virtual, these students, they were a reward school, isn't that what they said?
Yeah.
Which really surprised me.
So they did very well.
But now, I hope they do, if we do this, I hope they do that well here. I hope they do.
But this would eliminate having a different school number like we did before.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
But Brent, is this something you'd recommend we do? Would you endorse it?
I think it would be beneficial for the district, and for the, the families in the community, I think it would.
Leslie, do you agree with that?
I do.
The high school wouldn't have a problem with that, do you think, Leslie?
I think the high school's losing more and more students because they're looking for that flexible way to take their classes.
They're looking for a
And
flexible.
it's not, I mean, there are some that want to work, but it's not just those students. I mean, some of them are gonna be doing along with Ball State, some of them are doing it with TCAT, it's those students as well now. So I think there would be several students that would possibly come back.
So this program, I know when they homeschool now, I mean, they can graduate early. If they do all the classes, they can graduate a year early or more. Is this here, or does it keep it like going to high school? I mean, does it make it the same number?
They would have a program of study, from my understanding, similar to, in classes, like schedule, kind of similar to, students at the school. So, but we have students that graduate early, don't we, at the high school?
Cause I'm sure a big draw to people, kids in high school going on, they can graduate in 2.5 years instead of 4. Is why they're doing that. I didn't know if they done this, they can still do that too, and.
I don't know about that quick, we'd have to get into the details on the high school side. Of course, that is new to us too, the high school part of it would be, so.
I know lots of homeschool children, and it's across the whole spectrum. Some are, parents are just too lazy to send their kids to school, but some are so concerned about the curriculum that that's why they're homeschooling. So, do they have any say about the child's curriculum?
It would be what Pearson offers as far as the curriculum, but I think the advantage there for those parents that are concerned is they have, their eyes are on that all the time. They see what it is, and they can have discussions with their child if there's something that they question or something that they don't fully agree with, whether it's a religious reason or something like that they want to address.
Most of those that I know, those students do very well. And I know those others that go to easy peasy homeschooling, so.
And that's really the name of it, isn't it?
Yes, there's really an easy
But I mean,
peasy
when
homeschool.
kids that are sophomores hear that other kids can graduate in 2 years, that makes a lot of kids wanna do the homeschool. I mean, that's.
They can still graduate early, even after school, so it's not just because they're homeschooled, but.
No, but they can't graduate when they're a sophomore, can they?
I don't think that early.
That's
I think
exactly
that
right.
early.
They have to have a. they
But
have
they
to
can
be very
homeschool
nice.
it.
Very, very
They have to be
I'm just saying, when they hear other kids, somebody taking it to homeschool, that's why they.
All right, do I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Second by James Goss, second by Mike Hayes. All in favor?
Mitch seconded.
If we are spending money on this right here for those 8 licenses, do we need to do a roll call?
Yes. It has been.
If there's a downside.
Okay. William Abston,
Yes.
Ashley Carr,
Yes.
James Klaus,
Yes.
Ben Danner,
No.
Ricky Dodson,
Yes.
Mike Hayes,
Yes.
Shirley Myers,
Yes.
Alice Reed,
Yes,
Melissa Savage,
Yes.
and Mitch Stonesifer.
Yes.
9-4, 1 opposed, motion passes.
All right, next will be OCEA recognition, Jennifer Allender.
Good evening. You'll have to forgive my casual attire. I took 75 second graders through
Cumberland Caverns today. So, and then went to McDonald's Greek midnight. So anyway, on this eve of our testing, I would like to remind y'all of something I know you already know, but it's a good thing to be reminded of it. Those tests are really important, but they do not measure all the qualities of our students. And they don't measure all the qualities of our schools or our director, although those scores are based on other things. The state of Tennessee wants to sum up a child with a test score, and that's terribly unfair. And I don't want us to fall into that same category. There's so many wonderful things and areas of intelligence that are not measured by that score. That score really measures how good a kid is at taking a test. And to me, it's unfortunate that our schools are tied to that, because I know our teachers feel different. I feel that our administrators feel different, and our central office staff. Everybody sees that a child is so much more than a test score. And yet the state wants us to measure these kids like that. So just a reminder that no matter, and every teacher in Overton County, and I'd say in the state of Tennessee, is pushing just as hard as we can to get those numbers that the state wants us to have. But we want everybody to remember that these kids are so much more than that. That test score is a picture of a few hours of their educational journey. And there's so much more beyond that. So just remember. Thank you.
Do we have any public comments? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Rick Dodson, seconded by Van Danner. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then we will move into the work session. First thing on the work session is the softball update.
I handed out a sheet with the data that I was gathered from the last meeting, so I have that here.
What we found out, this will become a Title IX issue that we'll have to see about fixing to make everything equitable. Even with a booster club, the school system itself does provide $1,000 for both baseball and softball every year. With the booster club on baseball side, they had done a lot of extra work and done some stuff for the field. With Title IX, it falls on the school system to make sure that everything is equitable. So there will be some improvements that we will have to do on the softball field to make sure that it is equitable between baseball and softball.
So this sheet here has estimated costs for everything except lot poles and dugouts. I know they mentioned something about a building next to the field house. Can we have an update on that cost too?
And that there are, like we said, there are certain things that we do have to do, like the backstop and different things like that. We're researching it right now to see if we're gonna have to expand dugouts for the cost on that, and what we would have to do with any other outbuildings or anything like that. Now, I know with like the batting cages, as long as we can schedule times that softball can use those and times that baseball can use those, we won't have to worry about building separate ones for softball. Those times can be scheduled, and we can continue seeing what we can schedule and how we need to proceed with
I
that.
think that's what the building was gonna be used for, so.
Yeah, so that's what we just wanted to give you all an update that there is some work that we're gonna have to do. We're still evaluating on what work we're actually going to have to do, so we will present that to the board at a later time. Any more questions about the softball? All right, we'll move to County Middle School Athletic Rules Adjustment listed by the athletic director.
As most of you know, or all of you know, there was a fact gathering, opinion gathering discussion on Tennessee Middle School Athletic Association, whether it was time for Overton County to go into that or not for all of our sports. And what came out of that is it's not time. It's not the right thing for our district at this point for various reasons. And if anybody wants to know some of those, I'll share that some other time. But some things that came out of it that I think we can adjust, in my opinion, was the transfer rules in basketball. Of course, in our countywide sports, that's irrelevant because everybody plays on the same team. But with the basketball, NCAA has caused this problem with their transfer portal, and then now TSSA has jumped on board. And I think if we can get ahead of this, maybe at the middle school level, maybe we can slow it down a little bit. It's already happening. But right now, basically our rules are, if you go to camp with one team, you can't play at the other school the next year. That's basically it. Or if you move in the middle of the year, school year, the director of schools has to allow you to transfer, but you still can't play basketball. That's really all we have in place. So I've done some research with some other districts that aren't Tennessee Middle School Athletic Association, and I've looked at the TMSAA and looked at some of the situations we have going on in our district. And in your folder, you have a list of a lot of things. Most of it's already in place. So if you look at the second bullet, and this one falls kind of in our new virtual school situation. It says Overton County student athlete may not participate in basketball in the middle school in which they are not enrolled. And this includes homeschool students. The reason we put that in there was because we feel like that might pull some of those middle school students back to our Overton County schools. Now, if they want to get back into the physical school, that's great. But now that we're gonna have this virtual option, there's really no reason for them not to do that. So I think that bullet, in my opinion, is easy for us. It wasn't gonna be easy if you guys had voted down the virtual thing, but I think now it might be a pretty easy change for us.
Now though, they get to go, they can play basketball, but you're saying we're changing it where they can't unless they enroll in that school.
Correct, and the current homeschool rule is very lenient. The current homeschool rule says if you are homeschooled and live in Overton County, you can play basketball in Overton County, which means you can play where you want. So you can live wherever you want, play where you want. So kids are going wherever they want to. And they're changing from year to year sometimes. And that's not just homeschool students, but that's.
Well, I was gonna say, that's the way the regular schools are
Yeah.
too, I mean.
So it would tie that homeschool student, if they're in our virtual program, to that homeschool, which might not be a popular thing. But we're tying them for other reasons, so we thought that'd be a good way to tie them for athletics as well. So that's something to discuss, I suppose.
And I may have misunderstood, but so if they're not enrolled in a school or the home school, they can't play.
Correct, that's what I'm proposing.
So the question would be for countywide, baseball, foot, same thing, they have to be enrolled, okay.
I think so.
I just wanna make
We
sure.
have almost 40 right now, middle school student athletes that are not in our schools.
But how many of them live in the area that the school they're playing in now? You know, what I'm getting at is, we don't, my only thing, any kid can go to any school they want to in Overton County, as long as they live here. But we're saying if you homeschool, you can only go to for sports to the one you live at. That's my only problem with that virtual, because, I hate to tell them, if they homeschool, they can't do that, but they can anyhow.
And I think to her point, it may, if I wanna go to Allen's, then, hey, I need to enroll in Allen's, and go to that physical school,
But that's not the way it is now with homeschool.
Not now, but
No.
with the proposal, they won't be able to play at all unless they're enrolled in our program.
Yeah, this would still be here if you had voted this down. I would have still said,
But if I live in Wilson and I wanna play basketball at Allen's, and I'm in homeschool in the new program tied to Wilson, I can only play at Wilson. Well, if they wanna move to Allen's, let them go to Allen's every day and play basketball there. That's correct, right?
yes, that would be.
But now they can do that, and they can drive them every
They
day.
can now, but
They-
if we change that, they won't.
No,
be
I'm
able-
saying, if they live at Wilson, they can still drive to Allen's and enroll in Allen's. But if you make them homeschool, they only play in Wilson only.
That's correct, but,
They have to be physically there though.
but if they want, they can still go to Allen's, but they just have to go there to school every day instead of
If we adopt
homeschool.
this and they're homeschooled, they're not gonna play anymore.
Unless they enroll.
So
in
that's
that
allowing
program.
them, that's
Unless
allowing
that's
them
force them to do that.
They can do our virtual program, the new one. So that's, and these are just proposals. The second one there, we had a situation this year where last year where some students tried out at one school, made the team, transferred to another school in the fall, made that team. And what happened at school A was, the coach chose these 5 players. They went to another school. How many kids did he have to cut that didn't make the team, that could have been on the team? So then he has to have another tryout. So I'm proposing that if you've tried out and made a team at a school, you can't try out at another school for a year. You know, you have to wait a year. You better play at the school you tried out at, because you're putting that school in a bad situation. We already have in place that if you participate in a summer camp with school A, you cannot play at school B. But this would say if you've made the team at school A, you cannot play at school B.
Oh, let me get this straight, since I got in an argument about this last year that I asked you. If you went to the school camp at LMS, okay, you cannot transfer to another school and play basketball for that year.
Correct. That's correct.
So I go to LMS to the school camp, and I do great, but I now wanna go to Rickman and play ball. That's a no-no.
That's a current rule. That's already in place. That's already in our.
That's what came up last time. Okay, all right.
So this is saying you don't even have to go to camp, you just try out. You go to one of the tryouts in the spring, you've made the team and you can change.
What if you don't go to summer camp, Leslie? I mean, this says a student who attended summer camp, say I didn't go to summer camp, but I wanna play ball, then I can go wherever I live or go to school.
If I'm eligible for summer camp, I've already made the team and tryouts. So I'm already
To be
tied.
eligible.
I'm already tied.
Gotcha.
So that was the third bullet there. The 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th bullets are current rules. They're already current rules for what we already have. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the athletic policy we have, but those are already there. The last one, is a little different, and I got this talking to other coaches and other parents. A student athlete may have an athletic record or be on the roster at school A, make a legal transfer to school B to play basketball within his or her middle school career. One time. There could be a situation that parent says, I do not want my child playing at that school. I think we should allow that one time under the rules. But these students, athletes that jump from school to school to school to school, I'm opposed to that. I think we allow it one time. If they decide to do it a second time, they need to lose a year of eligibility. And that's what a lot of other districts do. That's what TMSAA says. That's what they're doing now with high school and TSSAA. So, that's, again, this is all just proposals. And then, of course, there at the bottom, there's 3 exceptions that I think are pretty easy to understand. You know, change of residence, a death in the family, a guardianship change, custodial thing. So I think those things can be exceptions, and they're all under the decision of the director to allow that student to transfer schools under those circumstances. But if the director allows a student to transfer under those 3 circumstances, then they should be allowed to play basketball.
So are all these changes making us more like that Tennessee Middle School
They are.
Association?
They are.
So, I mean, we weren't for doing that, but we're talking about changing.
But I think most of this addresses the whole transfer issue that's become a major problem over the past few years, where there was some other cons on the TMSAA
There were.
that really kind of.
There's a lot, yeah, if you talk to anybody that goes to them schools, yeah, nobody's for that.
There's pros for it too. But the cons outweigh for Overton County.
So when do the schools have their first tryout?
Usually some of them in April.
So here's, and this, it may address it, and I'm just overlooking it. So if I'm a student at LMS and I try out in April and I don't make it, and I decide to transfer to Allen's and try out with this new group in August, am I still good?
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
And I don't have this in here. I would like that student to be able to try out at Allen's in May. If I have 2 tryouts at Allen's, I would like that student to be able, I mean, the more they get to play, the better. I'm all about team sports.
Yeah.
I'm all about sports. Right now, they cannot try out of school, they're not enrolled in. That's not in here. I'd love to add it. But, I don't want them to have to wait till the fall.
Well,
They'll
the
miss
thing
something.
about that too is, I don't make it in April, then I make a decision over the summer to go to Allen's, and I get there, and hypothetically, I don't make it there, but I don't like going to school there. So now I wanna go back to LMS, so that may eliminate some of the back and forth too. So I mean, that may be something to put in there too.
What about this where it's got the change of address? I mean, is that still going off one transfer? Because I could see people probably changing that, cause now it don't matter if you change address or not, you can't play at another school, correct? If you move in the middle of the ball year and move to Livingston from Hillham, you can't play at Livingston right now.
Yes, you can.
You can?
If the director decides that it's a legitimate transfer because of your residence, you can. Yes,
I thought you couldn't change in the middle of the year now. That's what I always thought it was.
the change of residence.
If they change houses, they can.
Okay.
We're pretty tight on that.
Someone even proposed that we have all the tryouts within the same week. Every school have their tryouts at the same time. Not the same day, obviously, but have them the same week. So kid can try out, get all 5 schools in one. You know, but once I've made one, I can't try it anywhere else. So you better choose wisely.
So once you've made it, you can't change address and play.
That'd be up to the director.
I mean, I think it's up to the director to find out if it's a legitimate address change, a legitimate reason why, you know, I mean, is it a safety issue for the child or whatever, you know? I mean, you're always gonna run into those issues. It's gonna be kind of a discretionary type
And
situation.
that's something TMSA, they would handle for us.
I can see if they've got an issue at school with maybe another child or something, and they change schools just because of that.
That's not one of the exceptions.
But if they move,
If they move it, it's exception. Those 3 exceptions are proposals. Those are not in anything old. Those are brand new.
but, okay, that's my point, we're not doing that right now.
We are not, no.
I thought the way you're saying, right now, you can move and still,
If they change residence, I think he would allow them. We haven't had that. We haven't had that situation. Right now, if a student transfers within the school year, it's the director's decision to allow them to transfer. I would think it would be up to him, maybe with my input, if there's a reason that kid.
I know like it's court ordered to go with other, you know, parent or
Right.
something like that, I
Right.
understand that, but I thought you were saying right now, it's in there with, that's a new, you're talking about adding that there at the bottom.
Yeah, probably. None of those have ever been written out before.
So is this something we've got to approve?
Not really. I mean, I would like input, not necessarily right this second. But once these kids start trying out, and there's tryouts posted right now on Facebook, I think they need to know the consequences.
So is there a board policy that says that the homeschool kids can, try out anywhere, or is it just something that we're doing? Is that an actual policy that is?
It's not a board policy, it's just the middle school athletic policy is what it's called, but it's not policy.
But that would be changing in, because now it says they
It would be
can,
changing. There's not a transfer section in it. And that's a huge part of TMSA, transfer.
Let me ask you, Leslie, I mean, you wrote this apparently, you like this. This is what you
I
would
do
like
like
to do.
this.
Okay. Well, that's what we hired you to do, so, you know, that's your job. And I think we should support you if that's what you want.
I appreciate it.
Leslie does a good job.
Not accolades.
She does a great job.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions, concerns? Do we need to discuss, do some of us need to discuss the virtual school thing again, about having to play at that home school? Is that something you'd like us to look at?
personally, I would like to, I know that this right here is eliminating the homeschool, but I feel that there's some kids out there that, they should still get to play. That's my opinion on there, is that they should still get to play, even if they are homeschooled, because, I mean, I understand that some people are against that and everything, but, you know, when we're looking at taking care of kids in a whole, that even if they are homeschooled, they're still something that we have to
You
look
mean
at as
not in
kids.
in a virtual program?
Even if they're not
Any
in our virtual program.
any homeschooler out there?
I mean,
could play ball?
TSSAA says they can, I mean, we can't change that. But the middle school doesn't say you have to. I personally think it's a benefit for them to come into our virtual program to be able to play. And I think that's just a positive. I mean, if they really wanna play, then they should come to our school or be enrolled in our program. I mean, that's my opinion.
I agree, because I think it makes them more accountable, because,
Gives the
I know
hosts and cats some
homeschool
power too.
elementary students that had come to play ball,
Right.
that we didn't hold them accountable, because we hold our own students accountable, they have to be there the next day.
Yes,
If there's a
yes.
ball game and that type of stuff, and those homeschool kids can sleep till noon.
I mean, I think it's a benefit for those that wanna
It just
enroll
makes
in
them
our
more accountable.
programs.
I would like to see more kids enroll back in the school.
And I mean, I would like to see that too, and then, but if we already have kids that are playing that are from a homeschool program, we're just gonna say, hey, sorry, you've been on this team, but you can't play anymore.
Unless they enroll in our program.
Again, I think they have a pathway, to do
Yeah.
that. And I think that you put a lot of thought to this, and it looks really good. Thank you.
I'm really glad to see that we had this discussion about it. You all had this discussion.
So now we will move to, the Director of Schools contract.
Hey, before we do that, can I cover this real fast? So, last Friday, was it Friday? I know Ricky, Dr. Holman, and I, and Steve Mosley met with the architect, so just a quick update on the building program. This smaller, might need a magnifying glass to read, the font size there, but, those are just some notes that come out of that. So just to kind of highlight it real quick, the sewer systems at all three schools, it's not gonna be an issue with the building program, we can tie in the sewers, but really gotta look at the future of those sewer, systems. So Rickman, we've got the land there if we need to possibly add a few, extra fill line. I did contact Eric Ramsey with the city about asking, what it would cost to run the extra mile and a half from Fitzgerald on down for us to connect to the city sewer. Haven't heard back yet, so.
It was $2 million in 2022.
So how much?
$2 million.
To run a mile and a half?
22.
Okay.
Because we were looking at trying to do that with the county, buying that land and selling it and making enough money to pay for the sewer, so that whole field could be used to build on. Right now, you can't build nothing in that field, because it's all sewer. If it had city sewer down there, it's probably more than that now, I'm sure.
Okay. That's a good thought to have, though, but, I mean, they told us that there's not gonna be an issue right now with the building and tying in it, but for future growth, we're probably gonna have issues at all three, so we need to be thinking about doing some things at all three of them, like Ilham.
Ilham's gonna be.
We're kinda landlocked, there, unless we buy land across the street. I know Steve Mosley did recommend there's a section of land that we own, if you're walking around the track, the wooded area, that's got a lot of white oaks out there, hey, do we, contract somebody out to split 50-50 and let them log that? Half of it come back to us, the other half go to them, that way it opens up land in the future for possible fill line. Allen's is pretty much landlocked. They did give us some information on the land in the back next to the gymnasium, about who owns that, to kind of contact and kind of get some information, but, like I said, no issues right now with the program, but something we really gotta think about in the future as far as the sewer systems. The total cost for everything, they didn't add smart boards in there. You look at Rickman's 36,000, Ilham's 30,000. Then Allen's, based on our conversation and some things we wanted to change to get more traffic off the road, probably an additional $100,000 of asphalt, 20,000 for smart boards. So we've got 500 and, I had the number wrote down there somewhere, I think 540 or 560 in contingency money. So knock on wood, we can use that contingency money to offset these costs for these smart boards and everything, pending nothing else goes wrong. The total cost, we said the $14 million bond and using about $6 million of fund balance would be 20. Right now, it's coming in at $20,111,000. And if you add that extra money in there, you know, we're about 300,000 over what we said the cost would be. But again, if we do everything tightly and manage the project, we can use that 500-something thousand to offset that 300 that we're over. So everything's on plan. The projected timeline, I think, is to bid out in June.
Correct.
To bid out to the contractors. Then in July, they can start staging the areas to kind of putting their materials and hopefully we can be in the schools by the new sections by August 2026 school year. Allen's may be a little different depending on some things that we're trying to do with the traffic and things, but everything's still good right now. But if there's any questions, just let me know on that.
Can I ask something? With the Innovative School Model Grant, 3 of the schools that are getting new rooms are wanting to buy outbuildings, greenhouses, things like that for their students. They're really needing to know where things are gonna be, like the building, where the staging areas are gonna be, so they know where to put these things. They don't wanna set up a greenhouse and have to move it because of staging. So
The principal's got copies of all
the drawings.
the drawings at the meeting Friday. So
Okay.
they know exactly where everything's going.
the staging areas as well.
Well, the staging areas, we don't know. We won't know until the contractor, it's bidded out. But they can probably give a good idea of where it won't be staged. I mean, you look at Rickman School, everything's gonna be in the back part, between the gym, closer to the gym is where that section's gonna be. Then Hillham is gonna be part of the current employee parking lot right behind the left side of the school. Then Allen's, there's probably not much room there, but it's gonna be right behind where the cafeteria is and run adjacent to where I think the higher grades are at back there. And it'll take a section of that basketball court in the back. So they don't have much room out there, but they do have that big lot up there with a gravel walkway on it. I mean, that's a little bit away from the school, but they've got the drawings and they probably can get, but we won't know the staging area until whoever gets the bid kind of comes in and says that.
I know like Richmond, half of the field across the road there where the sewer system is, only half it's used for sewer. The other half back there toward Brandon Winningham, there's no sewer lines on it.
But they've got the copy of the drawings, and the next meeting we'll have, I don't know the time, but I'll have Dr. Holman copy you on it, and you can sit in too, so.
I see that there's no money included for playground relocations.
No, the only thing is just relocating the playground, so I'll get with Mr. Mosley on that. I think at Rickman, there's some swing sets and things that may need to be moved. It's
Basketball.
and a basketball court. Allen's, the swing set and the basketball court. And Hillham, there's nothing affected there because they can fix that. They're not gonna touch the track area. The backside of the track they will touch, but they're gonna kind of shorten it and kind of redo asphalt around it to make a full track. But that's something we'll get with Steve on, and I think his team can handle that. So.
Yeah, because the main thing that, when we look at these and we talk about spending that, and then $6 million coming out of fund balance, thing that comes to mind is where we got the letter from the state saying that the $500,000 in ESSER funds was frozen, taken back, and we're gonna have to come up with that money to cover those expenses. Looking forward into the future, I'm worried about what more may happen, that the state may not get funding on this or that, and it may not get passed along to us. So that's one thing that we definitely need to be looking at and thinking about as we go into the future.
I think Shirley volunteered to go move some of it too, so.
Yeah, there you go, Shirley.
Mike, what about on Rickman? I mean, it's 12, I mean, we're doing 10 at Hillham.
Well-
Hillham's numbers ain't really, I mean, what I'm getting at Rickman is grown probably more than any school. And we're
And I
talking about
think-
12, is 12 enough?
What we decided to do, when we had that conversation, is we're gonna bid out 12, but we're gonna have an amendment for 14. That way they're gonna give us a cost for 12, then they're gonna give us a cost for 14. We can award them the 12, then if we know that we've got enough savings to add the other two, or if we decide we wanna add the other two, we can add 2 more on there.
But does Hillham have the number of students extra to do 10?
I thought the one I looked at last, the enrollment at Rickman was flat for the last 3 years.
But I mean, over the last 20 years, out of all the schools,
Yeah.
Rickman, because the last building program was probably overcrowded when they moved in.
That's 7.
My point is that gonna be enough for the, next 20 years?
704 or 5 right now, something like that.
Yeah.
Give or take 1 or 2.
Yeah, and we talked about Rickman at extensive. I mean, based on the cost right now, 12 is where we are. We're gonna put an amendment in for 14. If we can add 2 more, I mean, we hope. I know what you're saying, I mean, but financially, we just can't add 2
Well, no, what
more.
I'm saying is, does Hillham need 10?
Based on the walk we did,
Yeah.
they need
Yeah.
10.
They need 10.
I mean, they're doing RTI in the locker rooms.
I know they've been doing that.
And they're gonna lose 1 from the construction because one of the doors that goes into the new area, is gonna take half of the classroom. So they're actually gonna lose 1, so they're really only gaining 9.
What about the parking? I mean, where are the teachers gonna park? Cause that's like.
Well,
basically
we are gonna expand the parking. It's gonna be a little further away, but we're gonna keep our current parking section. Then there's gonna be a parking expansion there. Now, ideally, we'd like to, later down the road, if there's some land across the street, then, that'd be perfect, but we'll have to figure that out, so.
And we're actually losing 1 half of the classroom at Rickman, but they're gonna turn it into a band room.
They're gonna turn it into a band room, yeah.
So, we need to come up with another 2.
But yeah, I mean, Hillham, to me, I know Rickman's growing the most, but when we did the walk, it was more surprising to me than probably any of the other ones on where they're having classes at, so.
I think in the last building, plan, the one that was 2,000, they probably needed, 3 or 4 more, like for special ed, different rooms, but there just wasn't enough money in the budget. So they probably didn't get enough in the 2,000.
Yeah.
And now they've used every room that they had, even the boiler room got turned into the teachers.
I mean, that's what I was,
Lunchroom.
that was the point I was making, when we done the last building program, it was too small when we
It
moved in.
was, and
There's
we
no
didn't get
sense in
enough.
doing one right now that's too small, cause we know we're not gonna be able to do it again for 20 more years probably. So it needs to be big enough, no matter if we've gotta go ask the county for money or what, I mean.
Yeah, and when we did the numbers, and we added like, 2 or 3 extra classrooms onto those, so.
Yeah.
I mean, like Rickman don't need the full 12 right now, but we anticipated some growth there, so.
And you gotta keep in mind too, that our enrollment numbers, if I'm not mistaken, have decreased from 3,000 to 28 something. I think
Is
they
that
did.
homeschooling?
27.
But is that a lot of that at the high school though?
Everywhere.
Well,
2,700 something now.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's moving forward, that's a good thing, I love the program moving forward.
So we'll let the contracts in June.
They'll bid them in June.
Yeah.
And he said they put up the contract, whoever got the contract would come in and put up the fence and to keep the kids away from it, all that being
The
put in place.
staging areas, yeah.
The staging area before school started. And will be completed, hopefully in 1 year.
Yeah, by August 2026,
Fall year,
we
they
would
start
be
the
in.
building.
Oh, wow.
26 school year.
That's good.
Be pretty quick. If it goes like that.
The best laid plans.
We hope it goes like that, we want it to go like that.
All right, we'll move into the director's contract.
They had to say something in the work session about, I had some people in the system that were not getting that bonus. I told the director, but it is just for, you have to be a classroom teacher. I meant, if you go in every day for speech, or you go in every day for intervention, or gifted, things like that, the bonus is not for them. It defines classroom teachers. And I heard some school systems had paid everybody, but that's not us. We're already, that's a lot of money, I would think. I don't know. But I had some people people asked, so I promised I would bring it up. Cause they also didn't get the reward school money that went to everybody, so. I'm not for or against it, but they are not included. Just, you have to have a classroom with lots of desks and you have to stay there all day.
I think the state legislature
That's the way the state defined it, they checked on it.
That don't mean they got it right, just like they did with
I don't
other
speak for the state,
legislation they done.
trust me.
It wasn't right either, so.
Yeah.
Let's take us a 5-minute break before we go on this work session. We may be in here for 30 minutes, might be here for 5 minutes.
Go to the bathroom.
Is it gonna get dark? No, I don't know about that.
It's already dark.
All right.
Okay.
We'll do 5 minute break.
Dear, it's the eighth.
Do you wanna ask Melissa
5
if she wants to
minutes?
call back?
Melissa, do you wanna take a break and call back?
She's gone.
Yes, I might be able to get logged back in, I'm not sure, but if not, I will catch up.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Curtis is blood, she's gonna carry.
Hurry up.
contract employment, the thing we were discussing was the,
Years?
how many years that we would go in, and then, the part D of number 15.
Yeah.
I've got this email I can send everybody, talking about the director's contract. The TSBA suggested, they said the only thing they would suggest was to add a severability clause that would be similar to the following. It says that the board and the director agree that in the event that any part of this contract is made invalid or illegal under federal or state law, that does not change the contract. They opinion that we should add that into the contract somewhere. It's not gonna be, he changed my password or get him email, because I couldn't get in and I didn't have a computer earlier. Cause it says this, the remainder of this contract shall continue in full force and effect with that part stricken out. So it's just saying if there's a state law that changes and something in the contract says something now, but if the law changes and says that's not legal, that the contract should say, you know, that don't void the whole contract. And I can send that to everybody, that what I sent, cause I sent it to them, the TSBA to look at. And you can contact, you know, Ben Torres is the attorney for TSBA, he said anybody wanted to contact him, I've got the email that he's to get it.
Okay, so you said that we needed to do that, and then it was the only change in there. So you're gonna send the email out to us?
Yeah.
So I guess first we'll start with the term of the contract. Everybody wants to go down to 2 years on there. Is that what?
Amen.
That's,
I thought they shared these.
It's not me, that's not my job.
What do you think of it?
Because I want to make sure I'm in finance on solid. I've gotten those looks before.
I think 2 years should be good. I mean, that, you know, if you do a 1-year contract, you're turning around doing this all over again next year.
no, I agree on that. And my whole thing, and it's been my entire thing since, I first got on the board, is we need some kind of continuity in leadership. If you have change,
Oh, I'm full.
yeah, if you have change
I
that,
don't like the every 2, it's like we gotta, every year or so, we're evaluating
well, I mean, we evaluate every year, but the contract is, and then, you know, with the average being and changing every 2 years, then it becomes to the point of where any employee thinks, oh, I don't have to change, because in a couple of years, you'll be gone, and the next person's gonna go a completely different direction, and they may be going in the direction that I am.
So there's pluses and there's minuses to it. So the minuses could be what you call continuity. If you're renewing the contract, you do not break the continuity. However, in this situation, we're considering a higher salary than what he was receiving prior to this contract. So I don't think anybody on this panel is perfect. Donnie's not perfect, I'm not perfect, but we've had some major hiccups over the last 12 months. And I don't wanna recant those, but I think it's common knowledge. I don't think everybody's 100% happy with the total performance over the last 12 months or the last 24 months. So I don't want to extend a 4-year contract. I would like a 12-month contract, but that's me. But I think we need to call a spade, and in my situation, or in my opinion, I don't think that things are perfect right now. And I think by minimizing the length of the contract, that gives incentive for Donnie to make some changes that will help him to maintain continuity for the board and for himself. That's my total opinion on it.
Okay.
I'm not against a raise. I'm gonna ask a question, and I don't know the answer, but, and everybody deserves a raise, I agree with that. Is everybody in our county too up to what the counties our size makes salary wise? Is our teachers, is our staff, is our bus drivers, is everybody up to what other counties is equal to us? You know, Chris?
Maybe we've not looked so close at support, but we have tried to look at teachers and instructional, all the instructional fields.
Are
We've
we
worked
up,
on-
are we up with schools that's our size? Not against the raise for the director, I'm not against that, but I'm saying, I wanna do the same for everybody.
I think we are on the teachers.
Well, I think, we've had, I think, at least 3 pay raises since I've been on this board.
Correct.
And so, we've done everything we can do for the county. Now, the school system is the largest employer in this county.
Yes.
And with all that I've said about Donnie and his performance, it's the hardest job probably in the county, based upon the feedback from the parents and the students and the teachers and the board. The amount of money that he's getting, that will be compensated, I think is more than fair. When you compare us to other counties and you consider the magnitude of what the director of schools gets, I think the salary is adequate. I think I don't have a problem with that or salary. And if anybody thinks that it's too much money, try doing the job yourself. It's not an easy task. I think the salary's fine. I just have concern about the 4 years versus the 2 years.
And going on the salary that was there, the only thing that would be included in this salary is the bump ups that we have done for the teachers that he did not receive.
Yes.
He has not received anything over the past 4 years. It is being set at that one amount. And that's the only bump up that would be in this 108,000 would be what the teachers received.
Well, I'm not against them getting a raise now, by no means, but I just want to make sure we treat everybody the same. Everybody should.
And that's what we have been doing over the past 4 years, has been trying to equal out the pay scale, make it where if we give a raise here, it can go there. And then we've got the state that's saying we have to raise
New
all
teachers.
teachers up $12,000 over the course of, I think it was 7 years. And that's what we're in the progress of. So that would be where the compensation part of that came in, is just
It's a last payment for the teachers.
is making it equitable of what we've done to teachers, so we're going to make it equitable with the director of schools.
I'd just like to say that, I know that Dr. Holman's made mistakes, he's not perfect, but I think that he's learned from his mistakes. In August of this year, I will be some way involved with Overton County Schools for 59 years. I mean, that's a long time, that's longer than some of your parents have been around. I have seen a lot of what we used to call superintendents come and go. And I'll have to say that I've seen some that's a lot worse than Dr. Holman, that's made a lot worse mistakes. So, I've just got that to say in his favor.
Can I say something? Well, I will admit I've made mistakes. I'll be the first to say that, but I'm working hard every day to do the best I can. I irritate people here in this building, chasing them around like those two sitting there. We work hard every day to try to get as much done as we possibly can. We have a good time working hard. We get along, you know, but I do apologize for any mistakes that I've made, but that they were definitely not made on purpose. That's for sure and certain. So, and I work hard every day to try to do better. And I will try to do better in the future.
It's like me, I'm on an improvement plan.
I stay on it
For quite some time.
I've got a question about this email we got sent from the chairman. It's basically telling us we need to keep the director we've got. Can we get that email? I mean, Cause this email says we need to keep continuity, and we've had changes in directors, and we need to keep the continuity. I mean, we can't talk about that in emails, or how we're gonna vote, can we?
The email that I sent out, it did say that continuity helps bring stability to the school system and all of that, but it wasn't in any way to tell you how to vote on this. It was just giving you information that was out there about the test scores that you had asked about, the school scores that you had asked about on there, and just saying that, you know, it is important for continuity.
Sure.
I'm going back with Melissa's idea, just coming in and hearing out everyone else's opinion about the director as well, just to kind of, because we only see so much of it, or they're with him every day.
What did she say? It's hard to hear.
She said that we should see what everybody that works with Dr. Holman says about, they work with him every day, we only get to see a part of it.
So how do y'all wanna do that? I mean, do you wanna
Well, most school
voluntarily
systems,
ask people to come in, or?
most school systems take anonymous evaluations from superintendents, or from principals, and from staff in the central office too. I know that's probably not been the way we've done it here, but I know counties around us do that.
Well, and then you lean, sometimes anonymous things aren't so anonymous.
Well, they can write their name out if they want to.
Principals knew they were being evaluated, they came in and said, we're giving evaluations to all your teachers, and, then we'll come back and,
Yeah, but I'm talking about them evaluating the director too.
not a lot of counties do that. I asked
Fentress
somebody-
County does that.
Well,
I know several other ones.
but I mean, it's not required, and not every county does it.
But I mean,
because
that's the board.
It's
It'd be up to the board.
ambiguous sometimes, that some people out in the schools are not as connected as you think to the director. They are more connected to their principal.
But I mean, Melissa and Ashley's point is they're working with the director every day, and we're not. So, I mean, that's good to hear that side too, because all of us
Yes.
are not here every day.
At York, everybody's together, and there's only one school.
Well, my question is, if you wanna go that route,
We should,
how are you gonna do it?
well, you could plan for it maybe in the next year, if that's something that you want to do. I don't know how you do it.
Do they send it in when we send
You're
ours?
gonna
in?
have to put your name on it. I put my name on mine.
My question on like your director's evaluation, you have a staff and personnel relationships. If you're not asking those staff and personnel, how you filling that out? As far as getting a number for that director whenever you fill that out this time. So if you're not talking to those staff currently, you're not gonna, Terry's putting down a number.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, how many people have you talked, the ones that I've talked to, don't necessarily want their name to be, because they're afraid they may not be working here anymore. I mean, that's the
I don't put
honest
their name.
truth about asking them for their opinion at the school.
And if they wanna give it to me, they give it to me. If not, then I'm not gonna hold them.
Well, and one thing that you have to keep in mind on this right here too, is that with the board, anything that we have to talk to anybody else about, it's supposed to go through the director. We're not supposed to be going out and talking to teachers, we're not supposed to be going out and talking to principals, we're not supposed to be going out and talking to supervisors. Any communication through us is supposed to flow through the director of schools. Do we go out and we hear what they have to say sometimes? Yes, we do. But technically, if you go by the way that it is, and they've said it in the TSBA meetings and everything else, is that everything that comes through us flows through the director. That's why we're reviewing, that's why we're hiring, is because we hire one employee, which is the director of schools. They hire everybody else.
But if those folks reach out to the board members, they're welcome to listen to them.
Yeah, they can listen, but
But they shouldn't solicit that information, is what you're saying.
And my comment, going back to Ashley's point about if it's something,
William,
yes. Yes, I'm here.
we could do an anonymous survey that would we could just send out in just a small amount of time.
Well, and that's what, in there, the thing that gets me is you always have to have that one person that's going to somehow get that information. They're gonna know where that came from, so then anonymous surveys are no longer anonymous. That's what,
Well, we could do paper surveys and they could just turn them in.
but they still have to come from somebody. You see, if you walk in and give it to somebody, then that person's gonna know, hey, this is what that person put on there.
I still think every staff member needs an opportunity to do that.
So you cannot do like a Survey Monkey where those are anonymous?
We've done.
You can send it through their
Survey
email through
Monkey in the
Survey
past,
Monkey,
which
yeah.
shows us.
Because we do that at the hospital all the time.
But then, the way it has been in my previous, that I've done on there, you send that out, but it's still attached to something, whether it's attached to, you may be logged into this account, or you may be logged into that.
Not the surveys we take, like the hospital does, they're not tied to, they don't have a name.
No, when you get done, you submit them and it goes in,
Yeah.
it's not, you don't have to email it back, they don't know where
Okay.
it's coming from.
I mean, I feel like we need more
I don't know
honest
if Brent can set a
answers
survey
that
up
way.
to. But my point is, if we're gonna do that, it needs to be done quickly, and we need to meet before the next meeting. We're gonna have to sit back again and meet and go over these survey results on what, to make a decision.
But once again, we were coming here tonight to vote on it, we don't even have everybody's evaluations now, and we were gonna vote on it.
Well, I'm just saying, we're still gonna have to have a work session.
Oh, I know.
To go over those results.
Let's have one.
What you say?
You should have said one, I think.
You'd have to form the document, I mean, that has to be made out.
How long will that take to create a survey and send it out?
I can look into it.
That can be done in 5 minutes, guys. Brett Crusher is a master at that.
I
was gonna say 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah, 5 minutes is
Look
fine.
into that and let you know.
Brett, I know firsthand.
You can virtually do that.
Can't hide from us, Brent.
So who's gonna come up with the questions?
That's the key to it.
Wouldn't it be the same valuation we filled out?
A lot of that stuff.
Well,
They wouldn't know a
They
lot
wouldn't
of
know
that.
on the evaluation, because it's gonna be saying, hey, how well does the director communicate with you? He's not gonna give them updates that he's giving us on things that are happening.
But I mean, if it's a supervisor, he talks to them. I mean, if it's a superintendent or a principal in the school, he's,
Most of the time, the principal of the school's the one that's bringing it to him.
Yeah.
I know what I'm saying, on the evaluation, they would know about his, communication with them, because he's communicating with them too.
Or what they think on his leadership here in the office with him, how many times he needs help with him.
And then another thing, another consideration that we gotta take in there to do that right there, anybody who has an axe to grind is gonna submit something, and anybody who is thinking, oh, he's doing an all right job, I don't have to worry about this, and put it in there, they're not going to. Cause I've seen that happen too.
I have something to tell you about my first evaluation at Hillham as a principal, and this goes to what you're saying. Diane Sadler wheeled in and, said, well, we're gonna do evaluations for you, Shirley, and we'll give them out to all your teachers. And I said, fine. So, when they were all in and scored, or whatever you wanna call it, the comment was, I have good news and bad news. A third of your teachers like you very much. A third of your teachers do not. And a third don't really care one way or the other. And that was my first evaluation as a principal. So, I mean, I gave them to everybody, so, but it was just, and I think the ones that didn't care one way or the other just didn't care about doing the survey or anything like that, but you do get all kinds of answers. I felt like everybody liked me.
had one, Shirley, where, some people thought I hung the moon and the others thought
That's
that I
what you
was the
said.
devil.
Well, she put it in different words.
Was it a third of
Age or
them, a third and a third, or half and
Third, a
half?
third, a third.
No, there was some of
60,
them,
40.
there's about 10% that thought I hung the moon, 10% thought I was the devil, and the rest of them said she's okay.
What about the assistant director? Could they come up with a survey?
Well, I mean, we can send the same stuff out, but as board members, we also do need to take that into consideration that.
Principals, aren't they? They deal more with him than teachers. Principals are the main conduit to the
Principals and
director.
supervisors, yeah.
And they really deal more, the principals out in the schools and the assistant principals deal more with the director than teachers.
Well, yeah, we wasn't talking about sending, that's what I was saying, the principals, they ain't talking about sending it to every teacher in the whole system. Cause they're not all dealing with the director like the principals are. Maybe supervisors and principals probably.
William,
Yes.
here's the thing, I would just like to have a rounded view from everybody that works, with the director, whoever it may be. We have our evaluation of him, and I apologize if I sound funny, I'm on a cruise, river cruise right now with probably 200 high school seniors, and I'm in the cabin with the captain. So, I just think that we need a fair evaluation for people that actually work in the school, on a day-to-day basis with the director. We do work with him in a different capacity, whether it be Dr. Holman or whoever the director is. I just think it's a good practice. You know, like I told you all earlier, I work for a state special school, and I get evaluated and surveyed by every person in the building that I'm over. So it just tells me things that I need to improve on, things that I'm not doing, things that I am doing right.
So the question is, do we take the same evaluation we do, put it in the Survey Monkey, send it out? That's the question.
How long do you think
I
that
wouldn't think all of it was relevant, or that they were aware of, unless they could just put NA, not applicable. I mean, a lot of that they might not know, or have an opinion one way or the other.
Brent, what's the timeline you can get it together and get it out, and then I'll get with you and we'll get the answers back and I can disseminate it to the board.
If we've got the questions, it should be pretty quick to do.
Okay. So we'll send out the same evaluation that we got and give all the questions to them?
Questions 1 through 14 that's just board questions, so.
Yeah.
That takes
There
out.
are some on there that are just board questions.
Then you have community relationship, and then, staff and personnel relationships.
So you're looking at 24 through,
24 through.
then you got
30.
leadership.
Yeah, business and
33.
finance, educational leadership.
Take out the ones that are just board.
So you've got
After education, is your
business
37?
and finance. No, there's not.
I thought it was 37.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Strategic planning.
Move that one down on the bottom page.
I think strategic planning is a good one to keep in there for supervisors, leadership.
Staff personnel.
So do you wanna take, what's the community, 24 down to 37? So question 15 through 37?
So if we do that, it's going to be community relationships is an effective spokesman for the school, is respected and supported by the community in conducting the operations of the school. Number 17, builds public support for the school district. 18 defends principles in the face of pressure of partisan influence. 19 develops cooperative relationships with the news media. 20 participate actively in community life and affairs. 21 achieve status as a community leader in public education. 22 works effectively with public and private agencies. 23 establish strong relationship with public and private agencies. 24 treats all personnel fairly without favoritism or discrimination while insisting on performance of duties. Recruits and assigns the best available personnel. Maintains up-to-date job descriptions for all personnel. Has a vision and communicates a mission for the school system. 28 is promotes academic rigor and excellence for students. 29 models the highest professional standards to staff and community. And then you said, was it through 29 or was it through 33? 37.
37.
So 30 is has an understanding of the needs of the school program, facilities, equipment, supplies, and the budget required. Supervises operations, insisting on complete and efficient performances. Ensures the funds are spent wisely and adequately control and accounting are maintained. Provides accurate and timely reports to the board on the financial conditions of the school system. Works effectively with board staff and community to develop long-range and short-term strategic plans. Keeps board and community informed of progress towards short and long-range plans. Develops a 5-year plan which includes strategies, goals, and projected student outcomes. Inspires others to achieve the vision of the school system.
Other counties have different evaluations. The school board does a different one than the principals do. I mean, it's less questions on the one the principals do than the one that the school board members do. Like Fentress County, I don't know if we could look at theirs and see what they're doing, because they do, you know, evaluations from other supervisors, but they have different questions on them too. So, I mean, the same as what we got there, though, I don't know.
Of course, they have a place on the side for comments, they could write what they want to do in their opinion psychology.
Like, well, this form has it,
Yes,
you know,
The survey can have
Yeah.
comments too.
yeah.
and if you don't have an opinion one way or the other, or you don't know this, then you just skip it, I guess, on the survey. Is that what you do on the monkey?
We probably need to take out 33. Provides accurate and timely reports to the board on the financial condition of the.
Yeah, they would know that. Oh, yeah. The Hawks are coming.
All right, so anybody have any other problems with the ones that I read off?
You mean the 15 through 37 minus 32,
33.
33.
Are those the questions we'd like to use, or?
We have Crystal to,
We need to.
collect those and send an email out with a summary, so that we exclude the ones we don't think is, that we say that we don't think is proper. That way we've got a clean document to look at before we agree to it.
We need to get a copy of that.
Yeah. We'll get with Crystal after this meeting, and then we'll get those typed up so that we can get those so you can look at them. Now,
But I wouldn't make it extensive.
Now,
And everyone that needs to take into consideration, if you've got a disgruntled employee, it doesn't matter how good a job you've done, you're gonna get negative feedback from a certain percentage of disgruntled employees.
on this right here, do we need to remove where it says with board and just leave it as staff, and when we do with the questions and everything?
I don't think they have an idea how he deals with the board. I think that's the.
Well, if it's anything that has to do with the board, that don't need to be in there.
That's right.
Because, I mean, they're not dealing with us
What about the budget?
They don't know anything about the budget.
I would leave the budget out, I mean, honestly.
They
I
have-
mean,
they have no
financial
idea
stuff
about
is
the
not
budget.
something- I mean, Crystal might be able to give more information on that, but, you know, other people might not, so. It may just be a portion of the budget that they go with versus the whole.
All right, so we'll get that together and get that out.
And get it back when?
Think we can do it in 2 weeks? We'll schedule the work session and, another work session in 2 weeks.
So if he sends it out Friday the 11th, 2 weeks the 25th, that following Tuesday's the 29th. Then we got a meeting the 13th, so, I mean, if we can meet the 29th and go over those.
That'd be the Tuesday after Easter.
No, the next one,
The next one,
2 weeks after Easter.
week and a half.
The 17th or 18th, 18th or 19th is Easter, Good Friday.
So, we're looking at the Tuesday of the 29th.
Tuesday, 29th.
April.
What time? Tuesday, 29th.
Maybe that board meeting time,
Oh.
6:30.
Yeah, 29, write it down.
All right, so we've got that, we'll get that out and everything. Is there anything else in here that we need to evaluate and look at before we go?
So the 29th at what time?
6:30, regular board meeting time.
So, just to be clear, that Part D, we're gonna leave like it is now. Like it'll automatically roll into probation after 2 years.
But if you got a 2-year contract, is that, I mean, why is that even in it now? Cause when that starts, when it ends, the probation ends, the contract would end.
Well, in reality though, it's,
You can extend it.
you can go back to last year's
Yeah.
numbers, cause he was still enrolled last year.
Correct.
So how do we want that worded? Do we want it worded the new way, or do we want it worded the old way?
I think we leave it the way it's.
The way it is
presented to
now.
us. No, I mean, the way it's in the new contract.
Yeah, shall,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's just my opinion. Do we wanna add that wording that TSBA said we need to put in it as part of that?
So
I said that-
ability.
Yeah, if you'll send that to me,
Yeah,
I'll have it
okay.
added to the end. We'll do that as we'll do it number 23, right before the entire agreement, right after amendments.
I'll send that tomorrow, I'll send everybody what they sent.
22 is entire agreement, yeah, right
We're
after
gonna do
the
it.
amendment, 22.
Yeah. We'll do 22, and we'll move that down to 23.
Yeah, it would be TSBA. That would be 23.
Now, is there anything else in here that needs to? Is everybody fine with everything else? So the contract would end on, the 30th day of June 2027. That would be 2 years
Did we
out.
vote on 2 or 4 years, or are we just assuming we've changed to 2 years?
That's what we were discussing on there, that's the reason that I was asking on, how we were gonna, that was one of the changes that we made was 2 years.
I don't think we've ever come up with it. Everybody I said he wanted 2 years, 4 years, or what, I don't think we, board.
I just said I thought a minimum of 2 years, but nobody else is.
I said I liked 4 years, I didn't know whether we voted on it or anything.
We ain't,
That's why we were having a work
we
session.
can't vote on it, work session.
We can say what we're all,
Four.
I say 2 years myself, that's.
Okay, Alice,
2 years.
Ricky,
I think it ought to at least be 2.
3 was not bad. 3.
2.
Shirley,
I'd like at least 3.
Mitch, you need 2, correct?
I prefer 12 months, but 2 is my concession.
Ashley,
I would prefer 12 months as well.
James? 2 is good. Mike?
I'm good with 2.
So it's 7, so 2.
You know, Melissa.
Melissa?
She, had to get off the call.
Alright.
So,
7 said 2.
Ship was sinking.
One said 3.
Well, I'll get with Melissa and see what she wants to do, because if you do that, then there's one that wants 3, then you have 2 that wants 12 months, and the rest are at 2.
I thought they said 2 years.
She's gonna text Melissa and ask her her opinion, that way we know before we close out.
Okay.
So did you all say 12 months?
Ashley and Mitch were 12
2
months.
years.
Mitch said he would
He just
settle,
said 2 years.
he said that he would settle with 2 years, but he would prefer 12 months. And then Ashley was 12 months. James was a minimum of 2 years, and Mike was all right with 2
That's
years.
6, it said 2 years. So. Got the 10. So far, I'm not counting me, but it's still 6. Now the 10 of us said 2 years. So.
She's checking Melissa to see.
And if we do 2 years, it would be the 30th day of June 2027.
I say, serve them with shield, can't get it. Maybe it's shark vision.
Man, he's an iceberg.
But everything else in here, is there anything else? I guess I should ask you about driver, are you good with 2 years? What is that? Yeah, okay. So as Ben said, with the 2 years, it would be 6 people saying 2 years. Are we good to set it at that, or?
Take 2/3 of the simple majority. 2/3 of the vote.
Well, that's the reason I was asking everybody.
You gotta come to a consensus. 2 years is the majority, so let's go with 2 years and move on.
Alright, so we'll put 2 years in there, and then,
Because to approve it would take 2/3 of the board, the contract itself, right? At the
Take
meeting.
6.
6, yeah.
If you're hiring a new director, it takes 7. Correct, Mike? Is that correct?
2/3 of the board, isn't it?
We went through that years ago, and
Yeah, we need
the
to.
standard
we-
contract is 6.
We need to double check. It used to, it was 2/3 of the
I think they
board, which would have been
changed.
7.
I think they changed
Then the
everything to a simple
Tennessee law changed, I believe, to majority.
Just
So it's
simple.
six.
We just need to double check that. I'm pretty sure it's majority.
Alright, so we'll get the valuations out, get those back in, we'll have a work session on the 29th. We'll get these amendments made to the, contract, including the one that Ben had from TSBA. Get that sent back out to you, then when we get, we'll have all the information for the work session for there, so then we'll go over that work session and go from there.
On the 29th.
Yes, we'll vote on it in the May meeting.
In May.
Does anybody have any problems with that? We're all good? All right, is there anything else? Then we'll call this work session to an end.